Hello students. Now let us talk about the fourth aspect of an ecosystem, that is the nutrient cycling. Please keep in mind, whenever we are going to talk about nutrient cycling, we are considering a smallest ecosystem and there could be cycling from one ecosystem to other ecosystem. So this nutrient cycling is the cycling of nutrients within the ecosystem for various trophic levels. Again, it would be in terms of standing crop and the trophic levels that would be considered. So when we talk about nutrients at ecological level, there are important nutrients which are to be taken up by the biomass and incorporated into them, and those nutrients happen to be nitrogen, phosphorus is very important, carbon is very important. So you see these three important nutrients are very vital to the plants, and that's why we consider this. And water cycle, the one which we had been doing since our childhood, how the water is cycled within the atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere. So we have different types of nutrients and there is a different process of cycling which each nutrient undergoes. But before that, we need to understand that when we are considering nutrient cycling in an ecosystem, we study biogeochemical cycles, alright. Bio means living, geo means related to earth, and chemical would be involving the nutrients in their chemical states. So we have biogeochemical cycling, and it is further of two types, the gaseous type and the sedimentary type. Now these two terms are a little bit misleading. How? Because when we talk about biogeochemical cycles, it is going to be involved with the biosphere. So biosphere basically consists of, you know that what a biosphere is? Biosphere is living entity, basically living representation of various ecosystems. It contains lithosphere. Litho is a Latin word which means land. Then we have hydrosphere, and then we have atmosphere, which means the air as we call it. This would be water and this would be land. So there are three different components that form a biosphere. So when we talk about a gaseous type of biogeochemical cycle, we are going to take the source of the nutrients to be present in this atmosphere or in the hydrosphere. Mostly in atmosphere, the biogeochemical cycle will be having the source of nutrient in the atmosphere itself. For example, I am considering nitrogen. You know, our atmosphere is 70% of nitrogen. So such are the gaseous type of biogeochemical cycles. Then we have another type, that is sedimentary type, where the entire source, if not entirely, most of the source would be present in Earth's crust. Alright. The nutrients main source would be Earth's crust. Supposedly, I am talking about phosphorus. You don't find phosphorus in air, you don't find phosphorus in water. All you're going to find phosphorus rich rocks you're going to witness. So basically, it is the phosphorus which is sedimentary type and nitrogen is the gaseous type. At the same time, there is carbon which involves both sedimentary type and gaseous type. And when we are going to see these cycles at large, then at a large scale, then we are going to consider both these cycles. The sources could be both, alright. Now, what we are going to study is the types of biogeochemical cycles. There are different nutrients which are to be cycled within the ecosystem, and then from one ecosystem to other ecosystem. That is, the nitrogen is to be cycled, phosphorus is to be cycled, water is to be cycled, which is source of hydrogen ions and oxygen, and carbon is to be cycled. Now, do pay attention that I am not talking about oxygen over here, because when these things are being cycled, oxygen automatically would be cycled over here. Now, we will take each type one by one, that would be considered. But before that, do understand what is the ethos of nutrient cycling, means how this nutrient cycling is going to take place. If I have to understand it in broader sense, I will have input of nutrients. There would be input. Then there would be output, alright, and then there would be internal movement, internal use, okay. If I have to understand it in simple terms, it is uptake, recycling, this is internal use I am talking about, and retention of the nutrients within the ecosystem. Alright, when I'm talking about input of nutrients, then there would be a source which will provide the nutrient, which would be a non-living source, which could be either the gaseous source or the sedimentary source that is going to provide with the nutrients, which would be taken up in some biochemical pathway, and the producers are going to take them inside. Then output is giving out those nutrients to other forms. That means the standing crop is moving from one level to other level. That would be internal cycling basically, and the output would be that how those nutrients are passing from one ecosystem to the other ecosystem, and whatever is being retained, that would be retention. Now what you need to understand is internal use basically. Internally the ecosystem is having various standing crops at various trophic levels. So each standing crop is going to take it, the nutrients, in the form of uptake. If not standing crop, understand it in terms of the trophic level producers. Supposedly they are going to take up the nutrients, they are going to get them involved in some biochemical cycle so that they are available to the other trophic levels. Once the uptake has been done, what happens is that this uptake is being used, it gets started, it gets incorporated into the ecosystem by the process of food web and food chain. The nutrients would move from one particular organism to the other. Then there is recycling. Whatever has been used, that has to get back to ecosystem, and litter fall is the term which adds to the soil or the reservoir of the nutrients. The organisms, they take up the nutrients. Whenever there is litter fall, whatever is present inside them, that comes back to the soil for further uptake. This is uptake and recycling, and that is done by litter fall. At times what happens is that the uptake is going to exceed the recycling. Alright, supposedly the plant has taken 10 grams of nitrogen. I'm just giving you an example, don't get into the example literally. 10 grams of nitrogen has been taken up by the plant, and it happens to add 9 grams of it into litter fall once it has died. Some of the plant is still containing 1 gram of nitrogen which was not part of recycling. Then this is the retention, this is the extra nutrient which is present inside the standing crop, that is known as retention. So please understand, if I have to talk about retention, it is the uptake of nutrients from which we are going to subtract the recycling part of the nutrient that has been done. That would be known as retention. Alright, so this is what happens in nutrient cycle, that there is an intake of the nutrients, then there is output of the nutrients which is visible in the form of biomass. There would be an exchange between the two ecosystems, that one ecosystem could be related to the other ecosystem by the exchange of the nutrient cycling, and then there would be internal use which would be done by these 3 steps. First there would be uptake, then there would be recycling, and it would be moving from one source to another, and that would be the component of a nutrient cycling. Now we are going to consider each nutrient one by one. For that you need to see the next slide. Thank you.